himself to Richard
Jonah,
Nixon.
play the clip. Play the clip, Jonah.
That I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
You got a president telling the nation.
5 words that ended a presidency. Now picture the sitting vice president of the United States standing at the Nixon Library, smiling, telling a room full of cameras that he's basically the same guy, minus the part where it all came crashing down. That's not a gaffe. That's a confession dressed up as nostalgia. Before we go deeper into what JD Vance actually said, word for word on the record, make sure you're
a lot of investing at first, but I've only been doing this for a year. So, but yeah, I've seen the results. It works.
And then lastly, just looking at the photos, it would seem that, and we've heard people have issues with this. How about like flying? When you fly to the DR?
We follow the evidence. Here's the exhibit. At the Richard Nixon Presidential Library, Vance told the audience he's
Vice President JD Vance
has gone out on a limb that extends a long, long way. He is in many ways comparing himself and the Trump administration to Richard Nixon and his administration. He was at the...
Subscribe to Audit the Case. We don't just cover the story.
I'm actually fascinated by Nixon as a character in history. I think that his historical legacy is enjoying a bit of a renaissance, but I think deservedly.
Fascinated by Nixon as a character in history, that Nixon's legacy is enjoying a renaissance, and then he said the line that should have stopped the room cold. If Watergate happened today, it would be a 12-hour news story. Not a constitutional crisis, not an unprecedented abuse of executive power, a news cycle.
So, as I joked with Robert backstage, if Watergate happened tomorrow, it would be like a 12-hour news story.
Gone by lunch. Sit with that for a second. The man one heartbeat away from the presidency just told you on camera that the bar for presidential accountability isn't just lower now, it's basically underground. That's the visual anchor for this entire story. A shovel digging the floor of acceptable conduct deeper into the dirt, one public appearance at a time. Vance didn't stop at nostalgia. He went further, drawing what he called a parallel between the deep state that supposedly took down Nixon and the same groups of people.
Like, the idea that it would have taken down a presidency is crazy. And by the way, if you look at the story of how the deep state took down Richard Nixon, it's not all that different from what the same groups of people, the same institutions tried to do to Donald Trump in the first Trump administration. There is a parallel.
The same institutions that he claims targeted Donald Trump. That's the irony explosion. Because the record, the actual public record, tells a very different story than the one Vance is selling. Watergate wasn't toppled by anonymous bureaucrats whispering in dark hallways. It was unwound in public, under television lights, by the...
What was the first thing?
It's unfair to the legacy of Richard Nixon to just think of him as he had a career that was decades and decades long.
And this gets to the second issue, which is the idea that J.D. Vance would say Nixon was taken down by the deep state.
Yielding his own origin story on top of it.
I also just, at a personal level, young senator, vice president, writes some best-selling books, is hated by the media. It kind of sounds like JD Vance. So I'm a little, I've always liked Richard Nixon.
The bar didn't get lower by accident.
3 things here. Let's deal with the first. He is saying that if Watergate happened today, it would be in a 12-hour news cycle, come and gone. That is a statement about the Trump administration.
Saying that the bar now has been lowered.
Nixon gets remembered for the EPA and opening China, not just Watergate, so maybe history will be kind here too. To everyone else, it's a 5-alarm signal that the people currently holding power see investigation itself as the threat, not the conduct being investigated.
Say that.
It's really not, though, because Nixon has been sort of clouded by Watergate to such an extent that we forgot what an incredible statesman he was. Started the EPA, opened China,
people
signed
all
the
of
first
those things
affirmative
can be
action
true, but
executive
that doesn't change.
He's undone by one moment.
By one moment.
Nixon
Nixon gets remembered for the EPA and opening China, Not just Watergate, so maybe history will be kind here too. To everyone else, it's a 5-alarm signal that the people currently holding power see investigation itself as the threat, not the conduct being investigated.
Democrat. You had Howard Baker, who was the lead Republican, and they were the ones grilling in public for all America to see, and they were riveted. All of these people who were not part of the deep state, his chief of staff, his henchman, his lawyer, the guy who knew about the recordings, that was not deep state.
So
that was
his own taping system that brought him down. Not shadow operatives, documents, tapes, testimony, public record available to anyone willing to read it. So when Vance frames Nixon's downfall as a deep state operation, he's not offering historical analysis, he's rewriting the file. And the rewrite has a purpose. If Watergate was a conspiracy against Nixon, then any current investigation, any oversight, any accountability mechanism aimed at the current administration can be filed under the same conspiracy theory.
So you know why he's saying that?
Yes,
he's saying it like that because he knows that the MAGA base isn't going to look up all that information. They're just going to take JD at his word that Nixon got screwed over just like
he needs more than the MAGA base. And I think it shocked me. This is a terrible play for him.
That he's going to need, eventually he's going to need more than the MAGA base.
That's the function of the comparison. It's not really about Nixon at all. Here's the moral refrain, and you're going to hear it 3 times before we're done. The bar didn't get lower by accident. The bar didn't get lower by accident. Say it again. The bar didn't get lower by accident. It was lowered deliberately, narrative by narrative, comparison by comparison, until "I am not a crook" sounds less like a historic low point and more like a punchline you're supposed to laugh along with. Now here's the ticking clock question, because this isn't just a political story, it's a structural one. If the man second in line to the presidency is on record saying the conduct that ended Nixon's career wouldn't survive a single news cycle today, what exactly does he believe the surviving threshold actually is? What conduct in his own framework would actually trigger consequences? Because if the answer is nothing short of what happened in 1974, and maybe not even that, then accountability isn't just weakened, it's theoretical. Vance also invoked a personal parallel: young senator, best-selling author, hated by the media, just like Nixon. That's not a coincidence either. That's positioning. He's not just defending Nixon's legacy, he's...
Well, I think it's going to hurt him. And I think it's going to...
The single most incredible thing about this is that he compares himself favorably to Richard Nixon. This would be unthinkable even a decade ago to someone who was positioning themselves as potentially assuming the presidency and running for president. Jonah, comparing him.
Borrowing Nixon's narrative of persecution to preload his own. The same playbook that worked for Trump, cast the media and the institutions as the enemy before they ever lay a glove on you, is now being tested on a new face in a new decade with
"I'm not a crook."
And that's the guy you want to...
Seriously?
You know he did that at Disneyland too. It was about taxes.
That's the second time. Hold on to it, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it matters that a sitting vice president said the quiet part into a live microphone. Here's what we want you to do. Pull the official transcript of Vice President Vance's remarks at the Richard Nixon Presidential Library. It's publicly archived through the library's own press office and through C-SPAN's Congressional and Official Events Archive. Read the full quote in context, not the clip. Then go read the actual Senate Watergate Committee hearing records, also public, also archived. Compare the two. Ask yourself, was Nixon really taken down by a deep state, or was he taken down by a functioning system that JD Vance is now quietly trying to convince you doesn't work anymore? The bar didn't get lower by accident. Third time, we didn't write that to be catchy. We wrote it because it's the entire thesis of what you just watched unfold, in his own words, at his own podium, with his own smile. So here's our question for the comments. If Watergate wouldn't survive a 12-hour news cycle today, what would it actually take? Tell us what you think the real threshold is now, because we're not sure anyone in Washington can answer that honestly anymore. If this kind of forensic document first breakdown is what you came for, hit like, share this with someone who needs to see the actual record instead of the headline, subscribe to Audit the Case, and turn on notifications. because we don't move on until the paper trail runs out.
Donald Trump, and he's trying to position himself in the same way and saying, I'm a guy who wrote best-selling books and the media hates. Aren't I the next in line?
No, he's saying
that's what Nixon was too.
No,
Silent
he's
majority.
saying I'm the guy who was a young senator who's written best-selling books, just like Richard Nixon. He's saying I'm Nixon in 2026.
That's right.
Just without the Watergate.
The same script. But here's what makes this moment different from a simple gaffe. Vance said this knowingly. He referenced the "I am not a crook" press conference directly, on camera, smiling.
Yes, I'm Nixon without Watergate, so I'm all the statesman qualities without the corruption.
I am attached to all the other things that have happened in the Trump administration.
He's saying, I'm Nixon without Watergate.
He's Agnew.
I'm Nixon without Watergate, but a lot worse because these things get more than 12-hour news cycles. I mean, that's what he's saying.
It's breathtaking.
No, it's
breathtaking.
It's insane.
We'll see.